Okay, so just to summarize for the recording's sake, I'm going to be showing how to set up a KSP using Steam, how to set it up using the file you download from KerbalisSpaceProgram.com, how to set up CKAN and configure it for your version, your install, and then I'll go through and show what I consider to be a minimal set of mods to make the game, in my personal opinion, for me, better. Hello, Nezerdam. Welcome. So I'm not really going to be saying hi a lot during the tutorial, just because I don't want to. I want to be able to post the tutorial later on. Okay, so. Okay, we're getting raided by the red panda. Hello, red panda, and welcome to the flying penguins. Yes, I know. In there. Thank you. All right. Gotta log in. Okay. Wait. So I have a bunch of utilities. If you have questions about why I can do things a certain way, feel free. I'm using a password manager, which will to control all my passwords. I tend not to edit videos. I probably will have to. Okay. So this is Kerbal Space Program, and this is Steam. Okay, two different ways of getting the game. And yes, there are others, I know, but these are the two that I use. Okay, I know that there's GOG or whatever. I don't know how they actually work. And frankly, I personally wouldn't use them. Not for this anyway. There may be others which I would. Okay, so one is called a direct download, and one is installing it by Steam. Now I've already saved the time, and I obviously have it in Steam, so I just went ahead and installed 145. Okay, so we're going to work with that. I'm not going to go into how to use Steam. I'm sure everybody knows how to do that. If you are downloading, okay, you come into, you just drill down, find Kerbal Space Program, do a download, and then download the file that you want. Most of the time, you're going to want Win64. Okay, this is an installer, which I don't really recommend because the installer puts into the same spot. You end up with the same problem you have with the Steam install, and I'll show you how to get around that. Okay, this is the one I always use, which is basically a simple zip file. Okay. And you save it. While that goes, going back to Steam, I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two to show the differences and the similarities. Okay. All right, another minute. Okay, so with Steam, you've downloaded it. First thing you should do is go into Properties. Okay. And let me just get this out of here just to not clutter up the screen. And in the properties, you want to go to local files and browse local files. Of course, it goes off screen right here. Psychonaut, thank you very much for the follow. I am going to disable the Streamlabs for right now. Just because I don't want to interrupt this too much. So if someone actually subscribes, could you please make sure that I see it? Okay, so this is opening up the local files using Steam. So the first thing you should do is go up one level, okay? And there is the golden copy that you get from Steam. Okay, so you can either make your own zip file locally. That's one way of doing it. Okay, and then just copy everything into that. And this just saves you having to worry about downloading the whole thing again in the future. It also gives you a clean copy from which you can make new installs on your system, and it's legal. You're allowed to do this. Okay, so don't worry about violating license or anything. KSP does not have any copy protection. They trust us, and it's very nice. And it gives you the ability to have many different installs on your disk, so that you could one day, maybe you want to play a stock game, and the next day you want to play Galileo's Planet Pack or whatever. So you can have as many different installs as you want. This is kind of needed because of the way that mods work in KSP. Okay, especially when you use Module Manager. Module Manager, without getting into the details of it, changes files before KSP reads them, based on various configuration files. And because of that, you can't easily switch between different installs. I know there have been attempts at people trying to do that, but it's just not going to work because the config files themselves are being rewritten by Module Manager based on all the mods that are installed. Okay? So, while that's going, and let me... Okay. This is the download I just did off of the website. So rather than showing things on my desktop, simply because I have too many icons, I am going to create a folder on my desktop for this. And I'm going to call it new folder KSP tutorial. Okay, and I'm going to do everything in here. Okay, so open up the zip file if you've downloaded it from the website, and you end up with KSP Win64. And you can just do a drag and drop over to here, like that, and then you wait for it to unpack. I'm not going to get into making history, but that is actually an install program, which it's going to, when you run it, you have to tell it where you want the making history to be installed. I'm not going to get into that right now. That's a little outside the scope of what I want to do. The zipping down here, okay, again, don't forget, I'm doing multiple things here, so bear with me. This is the Steam install. And if you purchase it through Steam, I recommend that the first thing you do is zip it up once you've downloaded it, so that you have a local copy which you can easily unpack anywhere you want. Okay, it takes, on my connection here, about 4 or 5 minutes to download and install Steam. I have a very fast connection. I have a very fast computer. If your systems are slower, if you have a slower connection, it's going to take longer. Why waste the time? Okay, so that's all this is. This is Steam, and this is the zip file which I got from the KerbalisSpaceProgram.com site, and I'm unpacking it over to here. Okay. Now I could also do the same thing for this. Instead of in addition to making the zip file, you can do this. You can do drag and drop. Okay, copy here. Don't move. And now Windows is copying the install from Steam and putting it over here. The only thing you lose by not running it from Steam is being part of the Steam community, getting it may actually, I don't know about access to the workshop. You may not have access to the workshop. I don't know. That's that may be a limitation of this, but I'm not too concerned about doing the workshop. So here what I'm doing is I'm actually creating 2 copies of Kerbal Space Program. This Win64 is from the website, and this one is the copy from Steam. Okay, so we're going to let that go. Okay, and now I'm going to go, and while those are going on, I'm going to go and find CKAN. Okay. So you saw what I did. Just search for KSP CKAN. The first one is going to be where you get the latest version of CKAN. Okay. You also come up with this is actually some of the data for CKAN, and you get the forum thread on the Kerbal Space Program, which talks about CKAN. So I'm going to go into here. Okay, and what you want is the latest release. Okay, now the only thing you need if you're on Windows is CKAN.exe. I'm going to click that and wait for it to download. Okay, if you're on Macintosh, you want CKAN.dmg, and then you install it. You install it according to the way you install stuff on Macs. If you're on Linux, I believe you could use CKAN.exe, but you have to play around with Mono to do that. Or you can just use the CKAN 125.3 all deb and install it on your Linux box. Okay, so, and again, the reason I zip this up is not because I want to get rid of Steam, it's so that I have a golden copy. So whatever happens to here, let's say 1.5 comes out sometime, let's say it comes out tomorrow. It's not. Don't take me wrong. It's not coming, but let's say it did come out tomorrow. I have Steam set to auto update. Well, guess what? If I'm in the middle of a game and I have mods installed, I really don't want it to update when especially when there are mods with DLLs. Parts mods will probably be okay, but any mods which do things, most of mine among other things, I don't want Steam updating, or I don't want KSP updating automatically, because the mods have to be updated, tested, etc. So in the strange event that happens, first you have a golden copy. Yes, you can always go into Steam and you can downgrade from the current to the previous. And you do that by going to Properties, go to Betas, and you can select which version of the previous that you want. So as you can see, I can go 144 all the way down to 105. Okay, I believe that was the earliest available on Steam. Okay, so now I'm not going to use the Steam interface anymore for what we're doing tonight. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize that. And over here, okay, this is the Firefox window showing the files which are downloaded. Okay, so what I want to do is to open the containing folder, and there's CKAN. It's an application. Okay, and well, this is my downloads folder. It's a catch-all for a lot of stuff I do, so I don't want to leave it there. So I'm going to move it from here into this directory. Okay, now keep in mind this directory currently has 2 copies of KSP. All right, CKAN is able to control all of or manage all of the KSP installations you have on your system. Xdoc, then if you have no read permission, you might not be able to do it. Okay, you might have to futz around with your system a little bit. Just try to, if you can't do the zip, don't worry about it. Just do the drag over here and drop with a copy in order to copy it to another location. All right. So again, back to CKAN. I know that some people actually put CKAN into the top level KSP directory. It's fine. It will work there. But if you delete that directory for whatever reason, let's say you're done with the game, you're done with that that setup, and you want to try a new one and delete it, you delete CKAN and everything it knows about. Okay. So I actually, on my system, I have it in a different location, but I'm showing you how to do it over here. Put CKAN in a place where it's not going to get deleted. Okay. Now, all right. So we have that. So what I'm going to do here, just to make it a little easier, so we know which one is which, Steam, and that's from website. Okay, that again, that's just so it makes it easier to see what it is we're talking about. Okay, all right. So that's the initial setup. Okay, get KSP installed. If you can zip it up in Steam, go ahead. If you can't, then at least copy it to somewhere else. All right, and don't use the Steam install to play the game. All right. There are other reasons for not using the Steam install. Okay. Again, if you want to make a new game, you want something to copy it from, and that's why you want to leave Steam as the golden copy. Okay. So let's go into CKAN. All right, so again, this is Windows 10. It's telling me that the publisher could not be verified. Do I want to run this? Yes. Okay. I'm also going to tell it I do not want it to ask before opening this file. Okay. Now, as it turns out, I have a lot of installations here already, but normally you will get a little window here with nothing in it. Yeah, I'm not about to delete all of my things just for this, but you get the idea. Let's say we want to add this one to it, okay? Okay. First place, oh, I didn't want to do that. Go away. But this might be happening because I'm not running my normal Steam, But anyway, what I wanted to show here was that CKAN will see your Steam install and install it and add it here if you. And so if you want it, you can leave it. If you don't want it, you can get rid of it. I'm actually going to forget it, but I don't want it in here. Okay. So you have a new install, KSP Win64 from website. You want to get it into CKAN. Okay. Click Add New. With Add New, it's going to bring you open. It's going to open up an Explorer window. And in this case, it happens to be the folder where CKAN is, so you can actually see what I want to do. So I want to add KSP Win64 from website. So open that up, and then in here you're looking for something which says Build ID 64, or if you loaded the 32-bit version, it's either Build ID or Build ID 32. Okay, and then hit Open. Okay. So what's going to happen is, let me find it. 145. Here it is. ASP Win64 from website. Okay, so it shows you the name, and initially the name it gives you is the name of the folder, but you can rename it. Okay, website for tutorial. Okay, and now it'll be much easier to find for tutorial. So you select the one you want and you click select. It's going to ask you, do you want it to automatically check for updates? I always say yes, unless you have a really slow connection. It depends on the install. When I do my development install, sometimes I'll say no. But yes, check for updates. And then you get this, where it's actually talking to GitHub, pulling down the information it needs. Okay, and then it says, do you want it to refresh the mod list every time it is loaded? Okay, again, I say yes. Okay? If you say no, then you will have to manually refresh it yourself. Okay, and what that means is that if you don't refresh, you don't see the latest. You can miss the latest version of mods because it won't know about them. All right, so now I've installed CKAN. It's downloaded all the mods which are compatible with, in this case, 1.4.5, because that's the version of KSP I installed. All right, now here's the little trick. Okay, first off, let me show you all. Okay. Now you see here max KSP version. Okay, 145, 13, 143, 14. You notice that the only ones which have check boxes along the left right now are the ones which are for 145. Okay, and this is intentional because you don't want to install an incompatible mod in the current version, in whatever version of KSP you're in. Okay, however, and this is in general, you know, there are a couple of minor exceptions. Mods which are made for one minor version of KSP will usually work in all future minor versions of KSP. So 141 mods will pretty much all work in 145. There are a few minor exceptions. Copernicus is very specific as to which version you have installed. It turns out that Chronal Vessel Viewer had an issue with 145. I had to come out with a new version for that. But again, you know, that's only going to be a problem if you're running an earlier version and you try loading Chronal. Okay. Okay, Dark Helmet. File, select KSP install, add new right here. Okay, click that and it opens a window where you can select what you want. Okay, so since I want to see all mods for 1.4, you go to settings and you go to compatible KSP versions. And it brings you up this little menu. Okay. So the first thing, if you just check 1.4 and hit save, you're telling it, you have to give it a moment to think about it, that all mods for 1.4, so notice that's now, that's a 1.43 version, but it's available here. Let's do the compatibles now. You can see there's more 1.43, there's that. So now basically I've made sure that any mod made for 1.4, 1.41, 1.42, 1.43, 1.44, and 1.45 are now available here for me to be able to install into my game. Okay? All right. So let me get what I actually want is I need my now you can have multiple copies of CKAN running at the same time. Okay? It's very happy doing that. Okay, so this one, and shows you at the top, KSP tutorial, KSP Win64 from website, and this is saying it's my R KSP 145 dev. Okay, so I'm going to move that here. I'm just going to pull some information from that. It's my reference. All right. One other thing before I get started onto the mods. Okay, you can change the install if you want. I don't recommend it because CKAN is good. It's not perfect. And I have seen occasionally when I change the install without restarting CKAN that it gets a little confused. So generally I will start CKAN, select the one I want, and if I want to go to a different one, I'll exit CKAN and start it up again or just start a new one. Okay. Benelity, welcome. The exclamation point sub only works when someone subscribed and I've started a giveaway, which I haven't done yet. Okay. Tabbed launcher. Are you talking about this over here? Finality? I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. All right. So the other thing is you want to look at the KSP command line. Okay. Not sure if you can see this too well. This is the default KSP. It's the executable dash single instance. Okay. What that means is that if I accidentally hit launch KSP 2 times, it won't start a second copy. It'll simply go to the one which is currently running. Okay. Now, the reason I wanted this is that there is a setting here. Okay. Not that one. Oh, I just need to pull up this. I want to get the syntax right here. Okay, here we go. And let me just open up a little window here. You can see it a little better. Okay, format, font. Okay, so what this is what I use when for my career game. Okay, the single instance, make sure it's only one, and dash pop-up window. This is a it tells Unity that to treat it as a pop-up window, even though it may be a regular window in Windows. Okay, so a regular window, you're going to have this title bar at top. You have the decorations all around. A pop-up window doesn't have these. And the reason I want that pop-up window, I'll get to in a few minutes. Okay? So you don't have to do this, but if you're playing full screen, it becomes very useful. Okay? So for right now, I'm going to put that down at the corner here. Okay? And what I'm going to do here, we don't need that. All right, so initially I'm just going to launch KSP, just to show you what happens when you launch a totally brand new. Obviously, it's going to say, this is Windows. You sure you want to run it? I say yes. And here we go. So this is a plain vanilla install, nothing else. Okay. So it's not full screen. You got decorations along the top. Remember what I said? Okay, and I'll show you once it boots, and we get to the menu, why the pop-up window becomes very useful. Okay. So this is just about the smallest install you can have. It's just the game, nothing else. Okay. In Benelity, I don't have an i9. I have an i7 4790K. I want an i9. If you look down, it's on my wish list. All right, so coming up, and but I don't know the exact resolution here. We don't want to see that again. And let's go into the settings and turn off the audio. Okay. All right, so now we're not going to be drowned out. 145. So this shows you what version of the game you're playing. Okay. Let's go into the settings and go to the graphics. Okay. So the default setting is 1280 by 720. All right. Now, you can change your size. I'm not going to do too much in here, but I'm going to go to the full screen, 1920 by 1080. I'm not clicking full screen yet. Okay. Hit accept. And now the problem here is that it's still a window. It's movable. Okay. And there's no way I could actually get it to fit perfectly. There's always a little bit which is going to be off around the edges. Okay. So what you would usually do with most games, you would say, I want to go full screen, accept. And that makes it work perfectly, except when I click outside. Okay, game is still running here, but when I click outside, it's like all tabbing. Windows hides the game. Okay, which can be very annoying when you're streaming or etc. I mean, if you're just playing by yourself, maybe you wanted to do that. Okay, I don't know, but when you're going full screen, and if you have multiple screens and you don't want it to go away, then it can be an issue. Okay, I made a I want to get it. Ooh, come on. Oh, it's confused. Okay, they got a little bit of problem here. There we go. Okay, that'll do. Okay, so I'm not going to go in and play the game right now. This is pretty, pretty simple. Now I'm going to start talking about the mods. Okay, which I find to be most useful. Oh, so okay, right. So let me show you this. Okay, settings, command line. If I add that pop-up window now, I will go back into the game and I'll show you the difference. Okay. Launch it. And by the way, if for those people who like starting through Steam, you can specify startup options for that also. Close, cancel. So you see here, there's no decorations, no borders or anything. All right. So now if I go here and I go to, not that, one settings, go to settings and I go to graphics. And if I do this, that's 1920 by 1080 is the size of my screen. I am now full screen. Okay. But it's not in full screen mode. It's in a window mode. So when I click outside like I'm doing right now, the game stays there. So if you have multiple screens, and if you want to have a browser on one window so you can look things up while you're playing the game, this is how you do it. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go cancel this. So that's pretty much it for that. Now let's go to the mods. Any questions before I do go full bore into the mods? Okay, so if you have any questions, I am keeping my eye on chat, so feel free to ask. All right, I will worry about editing this later on. Okay, so there are a few mods which I find to be most useful for myself. Okay, and let me get the right install up over here. Okay, so mod, for me at least, is a very simple one, AnyRes. This lets me change the resolution on the fly, so I don't have to go to the settings screen. I can change it on any screen. Okay. Editor extensions. I highly recommend it. Okay. I also personally prefer MechJeb, like having it available. Mainly because, well, besides the fact that, you know, I do like autopilots, and I also do the MechJeb and Engineer for All because I don't have to add the MechJeb part. So the reason I like MechJeb is that what I have found is that in the editor, when I'm setting up a vessel and the Delta V, Kerbal Engineer does a better job than MechJeb of showing me the Delta V of each stage in the editor. But in flight, MechJeb does a better job, even if I'm not using the autopilot, just for the information part of it. Okay, so that's that. Let's see. The next one I tend to like filter extensions. Okay, so you need to put both of them. The plugin is the mod, and then you need at least one configuration. There is another configuration available. I'm not sure why it didn't come up here, but I'll check that out later. Okay. Gonna need, well, actually, I'm not going to bother with that because that'll show something else. Okay. Since I go in and out a lot, I like using Quick Start. And what Quick Start does, it brings you immediately, bypasses all the menus if you've turned it on, and brings you immediately to where you last left. Okay. Okay. Toolbar. Okay. That is the Blizzy toolbar. I don't use it as much as the stock, but I do have a few things there. It's nice having it available. Okay. Now, for the inside the editor, WASD editor camera continued. Okay, this lets you move and fly around inside the VAB using the WASD key. Okay, the other one. Okay, so now that I've done that, let me hit apply changes. And this is the beauty of CKAN, okay? Not only is it going to install the mods I selected, okay? You can see here, toolbar controller is a dependency for AnyRes. AnyRes needs toolbar controller in order to work. Same thing with click-through blocker. So it tells you what it is. I mean, other mods also need it. Module manager is needed by MechJeb and Engineer for All. So CKAN is going to install the right versions of all of these. Okay, now I hit apply. Now it's giving me a recommendation. Well, that's already being there. CKAN recommends certain things. In this case, it's actually recommending two things, Module Manager and Kerbal Engineer, which I've already selected, so it wouldn't hurt if I just left it. And the janitor's closet, I don't want to get into that right now, although I do use it. There we go. So what it's doing now, it's downloading about a dozen mods. Okay. And now it's installing them. Not all of these are my mods, by the way. I have favorites which don't belong to me. So we're done. If I look at the install, I just installed 13 mods in what, a minute? Even given all the talking, I challenge anyone to download and install all of them correctly by hand, one at a time. They can't. Not in that amount of time. All right. So what I will do when I'm done with this is that I will get a list of all of these of what I consider to be essential mods for me, and I'll make them available. All right, so let me just see what I got here. Okay, there's another mod called World Stabilizer. Okay, notice it's not coming up because I told it to show the only installed. I want to see compatible World Stabilizer. This fixes the bugs, a bug in KSP 1.4 where things tend to explode a lot. Okay. Let's see. I don't want to clutter this up too much. Quick search. Quick search is an improved search inside both the editor and in the R&D. Okay. Curable alarm clock. Okay, let's just apply these changes. Curable alarm clock is world stabilizer, and I don't really want his flags. I'm not going to bother with that right now, even though it is an important one. Okay. All right, so again, taking a look at what we have installed, we've now installed 16 mods. Okay. Let us get into the game, and we can see that the mods are installed, that they're working, etc. And then we can move on to some of the visuals. Hello, T-Man. Welcome. Okay, so you may see this mini AVC allowed them to check for updates. AVC is a mod which checks a local file against an online file and lets you know if there's a newer version of the mod available. Mini AVC is included with many individual mods. It's a small DLL which only checks that one mod's version. KSP AVC checks them all, and if Mini AVC sees that KSP AVC is there, they won't run. Now, it doesn't hurt to have all these mini AVCs around because they simply disable themselves and delete themselves from memory when they're all done. I know some people say they want to get rid of all DLLs. Big deal. Okay, so I'm going to say yes, check that. Okay, so a lot of these want to be able to check for updates. I'm saying yes, let's go ahead because it's great. And World Stabilizer, you see that? It happens to work in 1.4.5. Okay, he just hasn't bothered updating it. So he has a little warning, or the version file, the World Stabilizer.version has a maximum KSP of 1.4.3. So Mini AVC is saying, hello, you got a problem here. In this case, I know it's good. Okay, so let's start and let's go into so I'm gonna have to start a new game because it's a brand new install. Sandbox. Actually, I'm gonna do career. C1. Okay. If you want, you know about coming in and changing the settings, toolbar control, editor settings, AnyRes. I'll go into what AnyRes is because I find it very useful. Except, start building the game. Okay, two-ball controller. First time you run it in the game, it gives you this introductory, and then if you don't want it, you click hide. Okay, it's always available, and probably it's a mod I wrote. And all of my mods use it, which have buttons. I may eventually get rid of this. I don't know. But right now, I feel it's necessary. All right. Space Center High, we're here. Okay. Now, notice we have some mods installed. Quick Search, Alarm Clock, AnyRes, and this is the toolbar controller, which brings up this window. Okay. I'm not going to make any changes now because my tutorial here is not about these individual mods, but showing you that it's here, it's working. Okay, you click this and it brings up that whole window again. Okay. AnyRes I'm going to mention because it is extremely useful. Okay, AnyRes lets you change your resolution on the fly. Okay, and it lets you save those resolutions so you can easily switch from one to another just by clicking a button like that or like that. Okay, now in this particular case I don't have to click full screen because I don't want it in full screen mode, but this basically is duplicating the functionality of the of the graphics screen part of the settings. Okay, so here you can go 1920 to 1920 and 1080p. They're the same thing, but let's say I want to create a new one. Let's see, 1200x 800. And I'm going to save that. Notice it's there. Now I click it. There's my new resolution. Okay. So I'm going to go back to full screen and close it. That's just, it's not, someone else wrote it. It had a very, very clunky UI. I rewrote it because they weren't around anymore. And this UI is mine, not his, because he had multiple windows. It was just a real pain to follow. Okay, so going into the editor. Okay, we got, let's do that. WASD lets you move forward, move back. I'm just simply using it. I wish I could show you the keyboard. So here, I'm hitting the A key, I'm hitting the D key. Okay, W going forward, D is back. Q is down, and E is up. So using this, I can now use the mouse to turn around. I can now go around and do whatever I want. You can fly through, you can zoom in, you can get closer. If you're trying to find a hidden part, you can actually go inside. If you've accidentally moved a part inside another part and you're trying to get it out. So that's the WASD. Again, it was written a long time ago, and I'm keeping it up to date. All right, and that's this. You can click over here, and you can change it from whatever the defaults are to whatever you want. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of options. Read the op for full details of how to do it. Most of them tend to be self-explanatory. All right, editor extensions. Okay. Okay, let me do that from. It's going to be hard to show all of editor extensions without having when I'm in this early of a career mode. But there we go. Okay, so you're all familiar with what a root is. Okay, this is the root of the vessel. Okay, reroute is a way to change your route with a single click. Now this is the route. Most of the time, this is much easier than the way that the standard game works, unless you're using subassemblies. And when you use subassemblies and you want to reroute a subassembly, you have to come in and disable this. Okay. No offset limit is this. I'm going to zoom out and zoom. Okay, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. No offset limit. This is the offset. Okay, so you can go as far out as you want. It doesn't limit you as to how far away you can move things. Okay, so if you're trying to make a crazy vessel and you need to have parts spread out, you can do whatever you want here. Okay, fine adjust. I don't really, something I added to it, it doesn't work too well, so I tend not to talk about it too much. Okay, let me do this. Don't save. Vessel. Okay, do I have anything, any other parts here which I could use? That'll do. Okay, so what I wanted to show you here is the symmetry tools and the angle sap and mod toggles, okay, which comes down here. Now, hitting the letter C changes the angle at which things will snap. Now it's 45 degrees, only going to go 45. If I change this down to 15 degrees, you notice the angles are now a lot smaller. Okay, it also comes into play when doing symmetry. So hitting the X key changes the amount of symmetry. And you can go up to, I forget exactly how many. I think you can have up to 8 with the symmetry. Nope. 20. So if you want to have 20, there's a 20 symmetry. A little silly, but... And holding Shift X reduces the number of symmetry. Shift C drops the angle snap down. Okay, and this part means there's no angle snap, so it's totally flexible. It can be a problem when you're dealing with a round object like this, because you can see how the way that the parts are trying to snap. So if I'm trying to do this, I would set it to one degree, and then everything works very nicely. Okay, it's just a whole bunch of useful additions to the editor. Okay, quick search. I can't really. It's an enhanced search over here. See this quick search history? So let's see, Mark. Okay, so I typed MK and it finds me everything which has MK in it. Okay. And if I then come up here, it's going to show me the last search. And so if I do this, okay, and I click that, it redoes one of those last searches. Works here. Going into R&D, you got another quick search here. So let's say if I do MK, it's going to find me every tech node which has an MK in it, whatever that MK is. So obviously the start, you look over here, you have aviation, you have something in there. Okay, there we go, Mark 1 cockpit, MK. Okay, so all of these have that. I try this, for example, nuclear. Okay, it shows me that the only place with nuclear is over here, which is the nerve, and over here, which is the RTG. Okay, that's why I like quick search so much especially when you're dealing with large tech trees, community tech tree, engineering tech tree, etc. Finding a node where you're looking for a specific part can sometimes be difficult. Okay. All right. Check to see. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to go into Kerbal Alarm Clock without getting into details. It lets you set alarms so that you don't overshoot a maneuver or whatever else it is you're trying to keep track of. Quick start. Haven't shown you that yet. I will now. Let me come into here. I got a ship here, and now I'm going to do something. I'm going to kill the game. Okay. I'm going to do a hard kill of it. As soon as Task Manager comes up. Okay, let's find. And I'm doing this because I'm going to show you what happens when I come back in. Okay, game is dead. Starting it up again. It is starting. You can see down here. Okay, so now you see down here, enable quick start. And then you can you can go to the space, whichever one you want. Usually, if you are in a vessel, it will go there to wherever you were last is what's going to be highlighted. So if you had a vessel highlighted and you're in space and then the game crashed, or you just exited the game, you quit to the main menu, it would go back to that vessel. So here we're going to end up going into the game and going directly into the VAB, and that vessel I had there should be there again. There you go. Okay, you can't do that with a normal game. Okay, you would have to come in and then you'd have to load and find the autosave thing, etc. So it's a shortcut. It doesn't do anything beyond that. But if you're going in and out a lot, it can save you some time. Okay, so let me take, what I'm going to pull up now is, this is my my current development install. I'm just checking to see if there's anything which I've missed before I go into the graphics. Okay, let me select my actual game. Now, yes, I'm not exiting and coming back in, but I'm actually not going to be doing anything other than displaying information. So let me see what I got here. Okay, all. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is get 2 CKANs running. Okay, this one is the one we're setting up. Again, these are what I consider useful essentials. All. What all does, it lets you, let's say you have a whole bunch of solar panels on, and you forgot to set an action group, and you don't want to have to click each one at a time in order to open them up. It has for a number of different things. It has global actions, so you can right click on any solar panel and you say open all solar panels, and all of them will open up. Okay, got any res? Better burn time. This is for 1.45. 1.5, which is coming out soon, is going to have its own version of better burn time, and I don't know if Snark is going to rewrite this or not. Just keep that in mind. Okay. There are a couple of different time warp mods. There's better time warp, and there's time control. It's nice to have. It's not an essential. Okay. And what I'm looking for are the pretty much the essentials, and then we'll get into some of the quality of life stuff. Okay. Contracts window plus. Contracts window plus is a nicer contract window. It gives you more information in a nicer way. Thank you, Gunslinger, very much. Okay. If you do lots of planes, you may want to consider correct COL. I am not going to call that an essential one right now. All right. Default action groups is something written by Snark, which sets you can create a standard set of action groups. So when you create a vessel, certain things will always be there. So you can know, for example, that let's say start drills. You're always going to, if you do a lot of drilling, you can say F1 is always, or action group 1 is always going to start my drills and action, or toggle them, or whatever. So I actually use that in my career game. I have 3 or 4 default actions which I have in there. Okay. Those are quality of life. We'll get back to that. We got editor extensions. Okay, gravity turn, it's not an essential. It's another autopilot for launches, which, as you all know, I use a lot. Okay, in general, gravity turn does a better job of launching normal rockets than MechJeb. Not that MechJeb doesn't launch them, gravity turn does it more efficiently. Okay. You need this only if you're running a modified tech tree. You don't need it for anything else, and it's actually included automatically by certain things. Got that. Okay, NMAP. NMAP is 2 parts. There are procedural parts. Procedural both in width, diameter, in height, and in mass. Okay, one part is the top of a rocket, another part is a cylinder, top and bottom, so you can put in the middle. And what it lets you do is have a test weight, and you can design your rockets. You can use NMAP to change the mass and see how the rocket works on different things. Okay, we'll get down to that. And I got a lot of stuff here, obviously, which is for my game, which I like, aren't essential. If you like taking notes in game, I have it installed. I haven't really used it yet, and I may end up taking it out because I have too many things installed as is. Okay. The other thing about CKAN, you click on something, it usually, not always, but usually gives you a little summary as to what that mod is. Okay, I have a number of quick mods installed, which I'm actually going to be removing some. Very, very important. Save. This does automatic backups, both when you start the game, and you can configure it to do automatic backups either at certain time intervals or certain times during the game. Safe shoot is another what I consider essential. And what safe shoot does is it takes you out of time warp when your parachutes deploy and also just above landing. This is to avoid the game. Well, if you're time warping and you have an impact, it's essentially magnified because the game can't deal with it. So coming out of time warp, it brings things back to normal. Okay. Show FPS if you want it. It just shows a little frames per second in the top right. Stage recovery is if you are concerned with saving money and you're willing to put lots and lots of parachutes on things, stage recovery automatically will calculate if your pieces of the vessel you're jettisoning enter the atmosphere and recover some money for them. Okay. Okay, the janitor's closet. Today we'll talk about it. It's a mod I wrote. It works. It can be a little intimidating, but it lets you hide parts, and it also lets you filter based on part size and by mod. Be very, very useful. Okay, toolbar we talked about. Too many orbits. TRP higher, not an essential, but a very nice way of replacing the stock astronaut center. Okay, let's apply those. And I'm going to let the KSP ABC get installed. I don't want this. So what happened? Okay, so let me tell you what I'm seeing here, what you're seeing here. Okay, cancel. Okay, so I hit apply changes. Shows you what it's going to do, and I hit apply. Now this first screen, it says these have been recommended. Okay, recommended means that they strongly say you really should have this installed. Okay, so I happen to like it, so I'm going to take it. Now this says suggested. Not so strong. We think you'll like it, or we think it goes well. So I'm not going to check any of them. You can also deselect or select here all of them. Sometimes you'll get a whole bunch, depending on what you're installing. And continue, and there we go again. We're downloading and installing. Okay, now notice that I didn't exit the game. Okay, so all of those things I just installed are not here yet. I have to exit out and then restart the game for mods to be whatchamacallit, for mods to be restarted. Eric, can you hold that question for later, please? Okay, so this is a basic mod list for no parts. There are no part. Let me take it back. There's one part, and that's this one. Okay, everything else is simply more quality of life than anything else. Information doesn't change the game any. To a certain extent, it makes it better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export these mods. Okay. Essential. Come on, I need to be able to type here. Essential. I'm going to save it as a CKAN. I'm also going to save it as a text file. And I'll get into why I'm doing that as a CKAN in a moment. Okay, so let me talk about that for a moment. Facebook website. Okay, essential.txt. It's just a listing of all the mods that I currently have installed in CKAN. If you install mods outside of CKAN, sometimes you have to. It's not going to be listed here. Okay. Essential.CKAN, on the other hand, hold on a second, let me, of course that didn't want to do it properly, so let's go into here. Okay. This is a file which CKAN itself can read. Okay. And it will read and it will install everything that it possibly can. So what I'm going to do is this, okay? Remember, this is for the KSP Win64 from website. Okay? What I'm going to do, let me get another copy of CKAN running. I want to add okay. Desktop. Okay, Steam. Okay. Okay, good. So I'm going to rename this name so I know what it is. Okay. And select that. Yes. Okay. So now we have here a totally new install. Okay. So the only thing I'm going to make here is come in here and just tell it all of 1.4 just to avoid any problems. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install all of the mods I just installed in this one into this one by using that file. File. Install from .ckan. Okay. Essential CKAN. Open. See, there they are. Okay. Hit continue. I'm going to download and install them. If it can't install something, I don't know what happens if it can't download, if it has a problem with one of these. It's been a while since I've actually had issues. But the really nice thing is this is a mod pack. This is a mod pack which doesn't annoy any mod authors because you're not bundling mods together. You're simply saying, here are all the mods that I installed, and you can use CKAN to install them yourself. And it'll download the latest versions, the right versions, etc. Avoiding all issues with the mod packs where people who package mods together, and it gives authors a real headache because those mod packs usually don't have the right versions or the latest versions, etc. I actually ran into this earlier today with a mod pack, and at least this guy was nice enough to be willing to do the updates, but still. Okay, so now we have 2 installs of KSP with exactly the same mods. And you saw how quickly it was to install it. So when I take my 250 mod game and I want to build a new install, I export it as a CKAN, I load it into the new one. It takes a little longer, of course, because it has to download and has a lot to download, but it gets them all installed correctly. Okay, so I'm not going to use it. I just wanted to show you what the CKAN was for. Okay, so we got that. I will make these available when I'm done here. Okay, I'm not sure where I'll put them yet. Probably on Google Docs, but now let's talk about making things look nice. Okay. KS3P is a fairly new mod. It's still undergoing some changes, but by itself it makes things look a lot nicer. Okay, and let me see what I got here. Oh, I have to be careful because this install is actually a GPP install, and I don't want to put things in there. Chatterer. And Chatterer Extended. 2 mods, that's what gives you the Kerbals talking. Okay. Okay, I'm going to include this as part of the way things look. Draggable altimeter, draggable nav ball. This lets you grab them and move them without having to go into the settings. I'm working on it. Keep it straight. Keep it straight. Remembers the camera mode. Nice little thing. Okay. Not mine. Depending on how you like your game, I like using minimum ambient lighting so that, again, don't forget, I'm playing for people, so when it's dark, I don't think you enjoy watching a black screen. I know I don't when I'm watching someone. So this way I can alter the ambient lighting so that you can actually see things as they go on. All right. Real plume. This makes the exhausts look nicer. Okay. That. And a cute little one, if you're really into the effects. Vapor vent. actually not mine, and my work involves just recompiling something and keeping it updated. All right, let's apply these. Okay, Chatterer, Draggable, Altimeter, Navball, Keep It Straight, AS3P. Okay, Ambient Lighting, Real Plume, etc. We'll apply those. I don't want engine lighting. Engine lighting makes the engines very bright. Okay, so we got here. These are suggestions if you want to add various parts. Okay, I'm avoiding most of the parts mods right now, because once you start talking about parts mods, it's the Wild West. HD, that's good. I certainly have enough disk space. I don't have to worry about it. And also, there are times when I want the old ones to be in an old install. I don't want to worry about going back and finding an old copy of it. And again, depending on your download, if you have a slow download, what HD Dante said is that he wants to copy the downloads folder of CKAN. While we're waiting for that, in CKAN there's a folder. Okay, oh, let me back up. This is the KSP directory. Okay, CKAN creates a folder called CKAN, obviously enough, and in there's a folder called Downloads. Okay, and in here it has all of the files that it's downloaded. Now you can also tell CKAN to clear it out. Okay, but what HD Dante is saying is that when you create a new install, you copy this whole directory to the new CKAN so that it doesn't have to download them if the versions haven't changed. It's a good idea. I don't bother doing it. I know some people actually use something called symlinks in order to have a single location for all their downloads. And that's something I haven't had a chance to look into yet, but it makes a lot of sense. Why have the same files in many different locations? My system is crazy enough that I don't want to, I'm trying to avoid making things even more crazy. Okay, so we got that. Now let's go in and take a look at the game. And we are getting to the end of this part of the tutorial, and if anyone has specific questions, please feel free to ask. While that's going, let me see if I can find... Okay, so the full KSP ABC, instead of having all those individual windows, gives you a single window. Okay, and it gives you a message for each one. Again, these are 141, 141 to 143, but I know that they work, so I can ignore it. All right, let me go here. There we go. Actually, I was talking about this earlier today. Community mods and plugin library. Okay, well, once... While we're waiting for that to load, this is the Community Mods and Plugins Library, currently maintained by Garst. Okay, seems to be a very nice guy. And what it does is that it has a list. He's listed all the mods that he possibly can, descriptions of them, what they're good for, what version of the game they're good for. He's color-coded it. Efficiency mods, okay, in-game utilities. Remember what I said about add-on controller? Unfortunately, this whole thing by Uza won't work anymore because of the way Module Manager works. Okay, part utility, in-flight information. Okay, I strongly suggest if you want to find a single place to look for mods, this is the thread to look at it. Okay. Okay. So yeah, now that we have all of these mods, it's taking longer to load the game. So be careful about how many you load. Those of you who watch me when I do my game have seen the crashes and how it takes 7 to 8 minutes to load a new game. Now the first time that you load and a mod has had some patches for Module Manager, it takes a little longer than the next time. Because Module Manager creates a file which it checks to see if it needs to rebuild it every time. Okay, so now I don't know if you can tell the difference, but it's a little softer. Okay, he happens to have a lot of dirt in the lens. If you look here, like you see this little circle here, but it gives it just a nicer feel to the whole thing. Okay, it doesn't do what Scatterer does. It doesn't give you ocean waves moving. But let me get a rocket up here, and I'll show you what we'll this and that. Okay, don't forget I turned off the sound for this. That's the vapor vent. You'll see what it does. It only really makes sense on liquid fuel, but you'll get an idea. Now it happens to have the vapor go in the direction of the flagpole. So really I should have put it on the side, but you can see how it's it's hard to see, but there's vapor. See that? Okay, and I just need to fix my staging here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So things, again, this is the KS3P, this is stock KSP, but it just makes it look softer, gives it a nicer view, without intruding too much on everything that it does. I do suggest if you use it that you go into the thread, because there are a couple of alternative configs, some of which would do better than others. I found that the stock config does a little bit of too much bloom, so I have a different version. Yeah. Okay, so what I've done, I've noticed I've accelerated, okay? Watch what happens. We just slowed down. Okay? Speed up again. And just before we hit the water, it's going to slow down again. See that? Just slow down. And there we go. So the water looks better than stock. It doesn't look as good as Scatterer, but Scatterer tends to have, in my personal opinion, significant performance hit, and it has some issues with water. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen global warming take over the entire KSP, but it's a problem. All right. Okay. So get out of here. There's also, again, there's MechJeb, Delta V stats. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. In this particular case, they're going to agree almost exactly, okay? Atmospheric. Okay, in fact, exactly 760, 760. And Kerbal Engineer does a better job in here. for this. But if you have a complicated vessel, sometimes what you're seeing here with in MechJeb is a better job. Okay, it's 6 one way, half does another. However you want to do it. Hello, Tesseract. All right, couple more, and then I'll be done for the tutorial. Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay, so here we go. Eve. Environmental visual enhancements. It's very popular. It works well, and it will work together with KS3P. This will make your it'll give you city lights and clouds. It does a very nice job, and it's not a huge impact on your performance. Okay. Then you need to select one of the. This is a slight problem in the config. You only need one, high res or low res. I'm going to select high res, but you see, GPP clouds conflicts with. Oh, why am I going back? Cancel. Light changes, Eve. We don't want the GPP ones because I'm not running GPP. Silly me. Hello, Cheesecake. RCS Build Aid, it is and it isn't. What he's talking about is this. RCS Build Aid, it is very useful, so I might as well add it. And I'll show you what it does. It's not absolutely essential. What I consider an essential mod. It is one I always install, but you don't need it to enjoy the game. All right. So when I'm done with this, this will be it for the tutorial. I will export the CKAN and the list. I will make it available later on, and then we're going to go into the next step. Okay. Let me know about that. Chatter is installed, but don't forget I turned the sound off. So I'm turning off Quick Start because I don't want to go into that game. I want to go into a sandbox game. Another one which I use a lot is HyperEdit. Again, it's not absolutely necessary because the cheat menu, such as it is, lets you do similar things. And I have noticed occasional issues using HyperEdit. Okay. So HD, you know, there are, you mentioned one. I'm not saying that this is a total list. I mean, I always have others. And yeah, we can go on forever. There are over 2,000 mods for KSP. Nobody's going to know all of them. Nobody's going to install all of them. And frankly, everybody has their own ideas of what should be stock. Okay. I avoid saying that with the minor exception that they should have some way of showing delta V in the editor. Okay. Because, and even though, you know, a beginner isn't going, it's going to be a little bit too much numbers. It is a vital number. I remember when I first started the game. I had no idea what I was doing, and I just kept slapping things on. And yes, I learned a little, but I didn't learn that I needed a certain amount of delta V in order to do it. Okay? So that's really the only thing I think is missing is some sort of delta V. And I'm not saying it should be Kerbal Engineer. I'm not saying it should be MechJeb. even if it's just a simple, this stage has that, etc., it is doable because both of those mods show that it's doable. Okay, and when you're in space, you deal with delta V, but you don't know how much you have in your tanks. That's where it's a little. That's where it's odd. It's like when you're doing maneuvers, you do your maneuvers and you specify how much delta V you're going to be doing, but you don't know how that relates to what you have in the engines. ISP. I know basically that ISP is how efficient it is, and the higher the ISP, the better. But I really don't know where these numbers come from. I have a vague idea as to why some engines will have a high ISP in atmosphere and some will have ISP in vacuum, but I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know how they're derived, etc. And I'm not asking. I'm not asking that, they give me a college course on this stuff, but an overall explanation, which they at least, unless it's somewhere in the tutorials, which I haven't seen, they don't have it. I'm just going to load Kerbal X, but I like it. Every time a new version of the game comes out, this is my go-to. It's Kerbal X. I always load it and I launch it and I see how it goes. Okay, so showing all the delta V, and see the MechJeb shows individual lines. Okay, even this is showing the individual staging, but MechJeb is showing the stuff in between as well. Okay, let's put that away. What was I wanted to show about this? Oh yeah, RCS build aid. This was the RCS build aid which we're talking about. Okay. And you use this when you have RCS thrusters. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that because generally let's say I want to have some RCS on this part of it. So you would pull that out for right now. And let me get another one there. Okay. So what this is saying is this, okay? Actually, let me do this. That's off a little. That. Okay. There's this thing called translation. Okay? And translation is when you're trying to go sideways. Is the RCS balanced to the point that you don't tilt, that one isn't tilting you in one direction or another? This red circle shows you, among other things, there's a lot in here, how balanced things are. So this is a hard one to balance out because it's so small. What I can do is this. I'm going to put that over there. And rid of that because I don't need that. Okay. So now, if I go into space and I had monoprop here, which I don't, okay. Now if I hit side thrusters, like I'm trying to do docking, it would be pretty much balanced, okay? If, for example, I took this off, then what's happening is that the top is going to have more thrust than down here, simply because how far it is from the center of mass. And if I would be thrusting to the left, I would actually end up tilting because the top is going to have more leverage over the vessel than the bottom. Okay, it does translation, it does attitude, it also helps you do your engines. It's extremely useful. I mostly use it for RCS, but I know other people use it for other things as well. All right, let's do this. I just want to get it into space. Don't save. and do a quick launch, getting Kerbal X into space. Where are we? There we are. And then you can see how things look in space using the graphics utilities that I have. Even so, even though you can balance it in the VAB, it's not going to be perfect, because the amount, unless you don't have any fuel in there, or unless the fuel is in the exact center of mass. So if you take the fuel out, the center of mass doesn't change. Your center of mass is going to change as you use fuel. So it's not going to be perfectly balanced, but you can get close. Okay? And yeah, see what Cheesecake says. He balances his shuttles. Okay? So now, before I take off, I'm showing you how things look right now. This is using both Eve and KS3P. Not seeing a lot of difference yet because we're not in space. I'm going to use MechJab to do a send guidance. I don't want to have to waste time doing it myself. Orbit altitude, blah, blah, blah. There we go. Let me get a little bit of sound here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to time warp a little. Okay, see the clouds? See the cities, etc., and that's what Eve is giving you. It actually looks like MechJab has been improved. Okay, so MechJab isn't letting me time warp much beyond 2. Okay, now exit the attitude. Okay, there goes MechJab. So if you're not into flying them yourself that much, MechJab does a good job. Gravity Turn does a good job. If you're in the atmosphere, Autopilot does a good job. Really, Cheesecake? I wasn't aware of that. I will have to take a look at it sometime. Okay, so wait, I just want to show you what happens in the nighttime. Okay, we're at night now, and you can see that we actually have something to see down there. This is the ambient lighting. So for when I'm playing with people watching, I can increase it so you actually see what I'm doing instead of having it all like that. Okay, where is everything? Okay, I like people being able to see. And so you can see that what Eve and all the other stuff is giving you. Okay? And that's pretty much it in terms of the mods. I will have to, however, since I'm here, let me take a look at that RCS, what you just said. Cheesecake, you're saying throttle controlled RCS? Are you sure that's not using TCA? Or is that an advanced tweakable? No, I'm sorry. Cheesecake, it's not stock. Unless you're talking about something which I'm not seeing. Okay? All you can do is say, well, show actuation toggles. This is actuation, but not whether it's throttle or by throttle fore and aft. You're talking about that? Okay, but that's not the same as balancing. For that, you would really need throttle controlled avionics, TCA. All right, so that's going to be it for the tutorial. Okay, let me get the stuff exported. All right, so this is, I'm going to export essential and graphics. Okay. One, two. Okay, so I have those. I will get those available later. Okay, let me stop the recording.